Hello and welcome back to yet another video on the Alejandro Hernandez podcast. These are going to be my official top 10 teams in the NFL after week 12. It was a crazy week 12. I predicted the Dallas upset over the Philadelphia Eagles, the Texans upset over the Bills, the Browns, Shedeur Sanders gets his first career win. So there's definitely a lot of things to cover in this video. There is going to be some shakeup in this top 10 given that the Bills lost a huge game to the Texans. The Chiefs won a huge game against the Colts. The Rams stayed atop the NFL. So we're going to get into all of that in this video. So without further ado, let's get into this top 10. There's going to be one team dropping out of the top 10, and that is going to be the Chicago Bears. Right now I have the Bears at 11 and the Packers at 12. Those two teams are going to play each other 2 out of the next 4 weeks. So I can't wait to see those matchups. The Bears play the Eagles this Friday. So that's going to be their first time really all season since the beginning of the year that they've been battle tested. We're going to see how the 8-3 Bears play against the 8-3 Philadelphia Eagles. They're 7-point underdogs. So Vegas is telling you that they don't really respect the Bears. I think the Bears, until proven otherwise, are viewed as pretenders right now instead of contenders. So we're going to see how they battle against the Eagles, Packers, Lions, and 49ers later this year. So that's why I'm going to drop them out of the top 10. They keep winning these very close games. I want to see them play against top tier competition before I can put them back in my top 10. So without further ado, coming in at number 10, I'm going to have the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to drop them one spot. And right now I'm a little skeptical about Lamar Jackson's health. I think Lamar is not 100%. He's had a hamstring, he's had a knee, he's had a calf, and now a toe injury over the course of the past couple of months of the season. So I don't think he's 100%, and he's not playing like himself. He's not running like his usual self, so I think that hinders the full potential of the Ravens offense. However, Derrick Henry has been getting the run game going. The defense of the Ravens has allowed fewer than 20 points in 6 straight games, so that's very encouraging. And this week, I believe that they have, I'm not entirely sure who their opponent is this week, but I know they play Pittsburgh. I think 2 out of the next 3 games. So I think 2 out of the next 4 they play Pittsburgh. So that's going to be a tough test for them. I want to see how they play against Pittsburgh. But right now they are first place in the AFC North. But until I see Lamar Jackson at his full potential, at 100% health, I can't have the Ravens higher than 10. So that's why I'm going to keep them at my number 10 spot. Now at my number 9 spot, I'm going to drop the Buffalo Bills after that huge loss to the Houston Texans on Thursday Night Football. And right now they look like a one-dimensional offense. Really, if they can get James Cook going, which they did in this game, which was kind of weird. I wish they would have committed to the run game more because they kept having Josh Allen drop back to pass, and that was a recipe for disaster because that allowed the Houston defense to get 8 sacks. So they got a ton of pressure on Josh Allen. I believe they should have leaned on the run game more. This week they have the Steelers, so I want to see how they play against Pittsburgh. I believe they will win that game. They should win that game against Pittsburgh because they are the way better team. However, I think that Buffalo heading into the playoffs, I can't have them higher than 9 because I believe in the playoffs, I would trust the Chiefs more than the Bills at this point, and I would also think that the Colts right now are a nightmare matchup for the Bills because the Colts have the best running back in the league right now in Jonathan Taylor. The Bills cannot stop the run, so that is a recipe for disaster. I honestly think the Colts have the potential to blow out the Bills if they do play them in the playoffs because I think Jonathan Taylor will just dominate them. And on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line got exposed by that Texans D-line, and right now Josh Allen has no weapons to throw to. So those are all causes for concern. I'm going to have to drop the Bills to my number 9 spot because I'm very concerned about their outlook going into the playoffs if they can't figure out their weapon situation. I believe they signed Brandon Cooks and they cut Elijah Moore, but Brandon Cooks is not viewed as a top-tier weapon at this point in his career. So there's cause for concern in Buffalo. They can't just expect Josh Allen to put on a Superman cape and win them games. That's not sustainable, and they're going to have to find a way to fix that. But for right now, I'm going to have the Bills at my number 9 spot. And now for the team that I'm going to be replacing the Chicago Bears with in my top 10 is going to be the Detroit Lions. I'm going to have them at my number 8 spot. And I was really impressed by the Lions' offense. I was disappointed in their defense, obviously giving up over 500 yards of offense to the Giants with Jameis Winston. But I honestly think that speaks to the Giants' offensive talent more than it does to Detroit's weak defense. I think that was an outlier performance from their defense. They gave up 16 points to the Eagles' offense. This defense is going to be just fine. And I'm going to have the Lions in my top 10 over the Bears and the Packers because I do think the Lions are going to prevail as the best team in the NFC North. I do believe they are going to win the division because I trust them more than I trust Green Bay at this point. I think this Thanksgiving game tomorrow against the Packers, I honestly think it has blowout potential for Detroit. I think their offense is miles clear of the Packers' offense in both their current states. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 3 running back. He's playing like it. He's playing out of his mind. They still have David Montgomery to lean on if Gibbs isn't getting too much mileage. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's playing at a high level. Jameson Williams is still one of the best deep threats in the league. They have so many weapons across the board, and if Jared Goff, if they can protect him, that's the biggest question. If they can protect Jared Goff and keep him clean, he's going to carve up any defense he plays against. So I trust the Lions to handle business tomorrow against the Packers at home on Thanksgiving. I believe they're 3-point favorites. They should be. I believe that they have the opportunity to blow out Green Bay and make a huge statement in the NFC by winning a big statement game on Thanksgiving. So that's why I trust the Lions over the Packers and the Bears right now. I trust their pedigree. They have won the NFC North the past 2 seasons, and I trust that Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, that they've been in the spot before, and they're going to win these must-win games, and I have them winning against the Packers on Thanksgiving. I'll talk about that game more in my Week 13 picks, but for right now, I'm going to have the Lions at 8 because I trust them more than Green Bay and the Bears. Now, coming in at my number 7 spot, I'm going to have the Indianapolis Colts, and it's weird because I knew the Chiefs were going to beat them, yet I'm rising them 1 spot, and I'm rising them 1 spot because they did impress me in the loss. And I know Daniel Jones did melt down at the end like I predicted he would, but he didn't do it with turnovers. He did it with incompletions and bad execution on 3rd down. So I know now that in the heat of the moment, I cannot trust Daniel Jones to win me a game. But what really concerned me about this Colts performance was their lack of trust in their best player, in Jonathan Taylor. Why did Shane Steichen go away from the run game? I understand the Chiefs were shutting it down, but it doesn't mean you just stop giving it to your star back. And I believe that win for the Chiefs said more about the Chiefs than it did about the Colts. It spoke to the Chiefs' championship pedigree. The Colts, let's be honest, they had a 20-9 lead in the 4th quarter. The Colts were good enough to have an 11-point lead and controlled 3/4 of that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Colts are legit. And I didn't think the Chiefs were going to blow them out, but I thought it was going to be a close win, and I thought it was going to be a vintage Chiefs win in the clutch, and it was. So that win speaks more to Kansas City than it does bad about Indianapolis. At the end of the day, they went into Arrowhead and had an 11-point lead in the 4th quarter, and they couldn't get the job done because Shane Steichen trusted Daniel Jones more than he trusted Jonathan Taylor. And that's alarming, and I think they'll learn from this experience, and I believe they'll get better. And right now, if the Colts were to play the Ravens or the Bills in the playoffs, I would lean to the Colts. I honestly would, because I was impressed by their cornerback tandem and Sauce Gardner and Charvarius Ward in their first game together as a tandem. And I was also impressed by Daniel Jones in the first 3 quarters. He actually played very well against the Chiefs until the 4th quarter and overtime. And I think that they would blow out the Bills if they play them in the playoffs, and I believe they would narrowly beat the Ravens right now because Lamar Jackson's not 100%. So I was impressed by the Colts that they were to go into Arrowhead and control 3/4 of a game against the Chiefs. However, I cannot have them above Kansas City because the Chiefs did just beat them in the clutch. So obviously that means that I'm going to have the Kansas City Chiefs at my number 6 spot. This win against the Colts was very encouraging to see. Down 11 points, your season's on the line. Patrick Mahomes delivered when it mattered most. Steve Spagnuolo and his defense delivered on critical 3rd downs. The Colts did not pick up a singular 1st down in the 4th quarter and overtime. And to shut down the number 1 offense in the entire NFL like that when your season was on the line was very encouraging to see. And it was all 3 phases that won this Chiefs the game in the 4th quarter and overtime. They were down 20-9, backs against the wall. Patrick Mahomes on 3rd and 4th down was money. Rashee Rice made big plays when it mattered. Xavier Worthy made big plays when it mattered. And Kareem Hunt, 100 yards rushing in this game against the Colts. That was also very encouraging to see. So although the Chiefs are 6-5, I'm going to have them above the Colts, the Ravens, and the Bills because I do trust them come playoff time. I do believe the Chiefs are going to sneak into the wild card round, and I believe they'll clip whichever team they play in the wild card round because I trust their head coach, their quarterback, and their defensive coordinator to scheme up a brilliant play and win in the clutch when it matters the most. And that's why I'm going to have the Chiefs at 6. I think they have championship pedigree, and they showcased that in this game against the Colts. And this game against the Colts was all the games they were winning last season and failing to win this year, but they finally found a way to win a close game again. So that was very encouraging to see. That's why I'm going to have the Chiefs at 6. And coming in at number 5, I'm going to have the Seattle Seahawks. And honestly, this is a tricky team because do I trust them against the best teams in the league like the Rams, like the Chiefs, like the best quarterbacks in the league? I don't. I don't trust them to win those games. However, when they do play inferior opponents, they knock them out. And the way it's shaping up right now in the NFC, they look like they're going to be the number 5 seed in the NFC with an 8-3 record. And right now, that means that they would either play the Bucks or the Panthers in the first round of the playoffs, and they would annihilate either one of those teams when they do play them eventually. So that means an automatic divisional round appearance for the Seattle Seahawks. So they're playing great complementary football. They have a good quarterback, an all-time receiver right now, an all-time receiver season with Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's probably going to end up breaking the record. He's their entire offense, and no team has been able to stop him. So I think they have a great offense. Their defense is playing great complementary football. They're getting a ton of sacks, a ton of turnovers, and their offense is playing great. So overall, great complementary football is being played by the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to have them at my number 5 spot because I believe they're going to be the best non-division winner in the entire NFL this postseason. So I'm going to have them at my number 5 spot. I do believe they're going to be the number 5 seed, and they're going to absolutely annihilate the number 4 seed in the NFC and reach the divisional round. And now for my number 4 team in the NFL, it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe I also had them at my number 4 spot last week, and they did lose to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to punish them for that because I did pick Dallas to win the game. I thought that Dallas was capable of the upset, and they did have a 21-0 lead at the end of the day. They also did blow it, but their offense did have a spark. Jalen Hurts in that first 4 drives of the game was excellent. A.J. Brown finally got involved. Devonta Smith got involved. The missing piece right now is Saquon Barkley, and that's a little bit of cause for concern. Barkley is just in a slump. There was a clip showed that Saquon had a wide open lane to run through on the left side of the offensive line, and he just didn't take it. And instead of probably bursting for a 30-yard touchdown, he took a negative 2-yard loss. So I think Saquon is in a funk right now. I'm expecting him to get out of that funk because in the final, I believe, 4 or 5 games of the season for the Eagles, they play Washington twice. So the Eagles have a couple layups at the end of the season. They have a pretty favorable schedule at the end of the season. So I do believe their offense is going to get right, and they're going to figure things out before the playoffs. So I'm not panicking in Philadelphia at all, despite losing this game to Dallas. I picked Dallas to win the game, so that didn't surprise me at all that they lost. However, I do think their offense is going to figure things out. Their defense looked a little vulnerable because they played one of the league's best offenses with the Cowboys with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. That was always going to be a bad matchup. However, I do believe Philadelphia does match up against majority of the NFL. So I'm going to have them at the number 4 seed. I do believe the Rams are going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC and secure home field advantage. However, I do still trust Philadelphia to be a top 2 seed. They're going to host a wildcard playoff game, and they're going to win that game with ease. So I do expect the NFC Championship game still to be the Rams and the Eagles. I initially had the Rams and Bucks in the preseason. Obviously, the Tampa has fallen off. They started 6-2. Now they're 6-5. So I do believe now the NFC Championship is shaking up to be Rams-Eagles. So that's why I'm going to have the Eagles as the second best team in the NFC and the number 4 team in the NFL after Week 12. Now coming in at number 3, I'm going to have the Denver Broncos. On a bye week, I'm rising them up 3 spots, which is kind of surprising. But I just think that right now they're the second best team in the AFC. And it's looking like they're going to host a home playoff game. I do believe they are going to win the AFC West. They have a 3-game lead on the Kansas City Chiefs. That is huge. They're 9-2, and it has nothing to do with Bo Nix. If I'm being honest, I think right now it's all about their offensive line and their defensive line and their secondary. They are going to get Pat Surtain back healthy. And if Bo Nix can just give them slightly above average quarterback play, this team has a direct shot at the AFC Championship game because their defense is the best in the NFL, and I don't think it's very close. They have an excellent defense, and right now their offense, they need to get things right. And I think this bye week late in the season was very, very important for this offense. Sean Payton and Bo Nix have an extra week to prepare. I believe they are going to come prepared, and they have a layup off the bye Sunday Night Football at Washington. That is a huge game for them to get right. I expect them to blow out the Commanders, and they're going to probably terrorize Marcus Mariota. I don't think the Commanders are going to rush back Jaden Daniels. There's no point. The season's already a lost cause for them, so I do believe they are going to play Marcus Mariota. That defense will dominate, and hopefully Bo Nix can come out of the bye week and build off that momentous win against the Chiefs at home. So I expect the Broncos to come out of the bye red hot. I think they get a huge win on Sunday Night Football, improve to 10-2 on the season. And they have a shot to challenge New England for the number 1 seed in the AFC. And if they do get that number 1 seed in the AFC, they have a massive home field advantage. So I have a lot of faith in Denver to be a top 2 seed. They're going to host a home playoff game, and that home field advantage at Mile High is very, very important. And I like the Broncos in the playoffs to at least win 1 or even 2 playoff games. And I believe this bye week is very important. We're going to see how they come out of the bye, depending on if Bo Nix plays great and is off the bye week, is how I'm going to rate Denver. Because if he comes out sloppy off the bye, then I'm still going to be skeptical of Bo Nix's play in the come playoff time. But for now, I'm going to have the Broncos as the second best team in the AFC at my number 3 spot. And now for my second best team in the NFL, my best team in the AFC is going to be the New England Patriots. And they got another big win against an inferior opponent this week in the Cincinnati Bengals. They just continue to beat the inferior opponents. They're just beating who's in front of them. You can point to the strength of schedule. Oh, they're not playing anybody good. At the end of the day, they did beat the Bills and they did beat the Bucs. So when faced in front of a good opponent, they have handled them. And Drake May is playing at a great level. And right now, with the younger quarterbacks in the AFC, I think Drake May has shown the most. I believe I trust Drake May the most out of all the young quarterbacks right now heading into the playoffs. I trust Drake May because I believe he's not a guy that's going to melt down come playoff time because he has great poise in the pocket, and that says a lot about a quarterback. It says that he has great poise, he has great confidence, and he's not going to waver if he has a bad game or a bad performance or a bad pick. He threw a pick six against the Bengals and responded by throwing for almost 300 yards and multiple touchdowns. So I have a lot of faith in Drake May, and I have a lot of faith in Mike Vrabel that they're going to be prepared when they play these good teams. Later on in the season, they do play Buffalo at home. That's going to be a huge test for them. And then they also play the Ravens. So those are two big tests late in the season that are going to get them prepared come playoff time. And if they go 1-1 in those games, which I believe they will, then they're going to be in great shape to get the number one seed. And they're going to host home playoff games at Foxborough. Again, it's going to be just like old times with Tom Brady. So I have a lot of faith in Drake May in this Patriots squad. Their defense, Mike Vrabel. They also have a Week 14 bye, and I believe that's very important. They have a bye week before they play Buffalo and Baltimore, so they're going to have an extra week to prepare, to rest up, and to prepare for those two great teams. So I expect the Patriots to put up great fights against the Bills and the Ravens and potentially get the number one seed of the AFC. So that's why I'm going to have them at my number 2 spot. And now coming in at number 1, my best team in the NFL. It's been pretty much a lock for the past 3 weeks to a month. It's the Los Angeles Rams. They came out on Sunday Night Football and absolutely annihilated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I honestly thought Tampa was capable of keeping it a close game, but the Rams just came out red hot on both sides of the ball, and that's really scary. If their defense continues to play like that, Chris Shula has them playing at an extremely high level, and it's really impressive given how young that defense is. They have so much young talent. They're all mid to late round draft picks aside from Jared Verse, and they're playing excellent football, man. That defense is playing lights out, combined with Matthew Stafford's 30-2 touchdown to interception ratio. He is the MVP frontrunner. And I wouldn't have been shocked if you told me that at the beginning of the season because I did have the Rams making the Super Bowl and making it out of the NFC, but I just didn't think Matt Stafford was going to play at this high of a level. I expected him to be great. I expected him to be the best quarterback in the NFC, but not overall in the NFL. He's playing at an extremely high level. Sean McVay is using Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua like chess pieces. And they don't even have to rely on those two. They have 3 tight end sets. Colby Parkinson's playing great. And they haven't even been using their running backs all that much. They still have Kyron Williams and Blake Corum to lean on. So the Rams can beat you any way they want. They can beat you running the football, they can beat you with Matthew Stafford, and they can beat you with your great defense. They got 4 picks 2 weeks ago against the Seahawks and only put up 21 points and still won. So this Rams team can win in multiple facets of the game, and my biggest concern for them was their special teams. They sorted that out by switching kickers, and right now their kicker hasn't missed a kick yet. So I'm very encouraged by this Rams team. They're showcasing that they are the best team right now without a doubt, and they're playing great football. I believe they're 9-2, and they're going to lock up that number 1 seed with ease. So that's why I like the Rams as the best team in the NFL. And that's been a constant the last 3 weeks. And that is going to be it for this video, and I will see you guys tomorrow when I release my Week 13 picks.